can you all hear me off this mic here? Okay, I'll use this one. Well, it's great to be out here with all of you tonight. I really appreciate the invitation to come out here. I mentioned to a few of you, I grew up here in St. Paul. I came from a big family, 9 kids. We lived on the west side. Roseville was kind of a mythical place, as I was describing to Kathy a little bit ago. One of my brothers came to the kitchen table one night at dinner and professed that he had a girlfriend who lived out in Roseville, and everybody went, ooh, because it was Roseville. I mean, this is this place way up to the north there. But it's wonderful to be back out here with all of you this evening. Thanks so much. Let me just take that off here. What I want to do tonight is just take a few moments to kind of talk with you about national defense. And I've actually had an opportunity to talk to a number of groups around the Twin Cities about this, both on the Minneapolis side and the St. Paul side. And I kind of update it every time I do it here. I think it's important for American citizens to kind of appreciate what's happening in national defense and where a large part of your tax dollars are going for. And so I want to take a few moments here this evening to talk to you a little bit about national defense. My purpose is to really kind of talk to you a little bit about conflict and how conflict is evolving in our world today. And then I want to talk with you about 3 ongoing conflicts we have out there in the Middle East and in Eastern Europe and out in the Pacific. And then I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have that you might have on anything related to all of this. Are you clicking or am I? You are. Okay. Right here? Yep. Pointed at. Yep. Okay. Okay, good. So, I think it's one of the things that's important to appreciate, and you got a couple things that don't pay too much attention to. Those are just a little bit of aid for me here. But there's a lot of things that are changing out there right now. And you hear a lot of it in the news. You see the work that Mr. Musk is doing and a lot of other people are doing to move us forward on technology, and that is impacting our national defense. There right now is a proliferation of autonomy taking place. That is the proliferation of drones and uncrewed, unmanned systems that are operating in all spaces out there. This is really changing the character of how conflict is taking place. For those of you that might be paying attention to what's happening in Eastern Europe and Ukraine, literally every day, hundreds to thousands of drones are being employed in a variety of different ways to impact the battlefield out there. But this has really it's really kind of democratized conflict out there. Everybody has these things. They can be produced pretty cheap. We, as a country, produce pretty expensive ones. But the Ukrainians, the Chinese, a variety of other countries massively produce these things, and they're pretty darn cheap. And it's given everybody the opportunity to use these things. So autonomy, the use of unmanned, uncrewed systems out there is really changing things. Likewise, so is artificial intelligence. Certainly you've heard a lot about this in the news here lately, right? Really over the last couple of years. And this is where we are making good use of software and algorithms and advanced technology to help us parse through massive amounts of data to help us understand what is happening around in the world today. When we were in Afghanistan, we were fighting in Afghanistan, we would have drones up, we'd be collecting all kinds of information off the battlefield, but we really had no way of mining through all of that. If we just had so much, we just couldn't mine through it all. Artificial intelligence is helping us get through that. It's helping us pull in all kinds of information to make sure we have the best assessments of what are happening out there. People have a lot of concerns about artificial intelligence. Does that mean that we're going to have machines out there taking shots and doing things in the national defense space? Probably not. We still very much believe in humans in the loop in the way we do things, but artificial intelligence is changing things, and there are huge investments being made in this area, not just by our country, but in many other countries around the world, and it's changing the character of how we are pursuing conflict. The third area that's changing is this idea of ubiquitous intelligence. That is, our ability to know what's happening out there has improved incredibly. think back to 2022, when the Russians invaded Ukraine. Our country was able to release an incredible amount of information derived through intelligence sources that basically laid out what the Russians are going to do and did it in advance. That's a good example of how good our intelligence is now, how we're able to collect and understand what is happening out there. Last fall, we saw some instances with the Israeli Defense Forces, Israeli intelligence forces, where they used pagers and cell phones. They were able to have those infiltrated into Hezbollah network, and then were able to remotely detonate them. That's an example of how good our intelligence is out there, and how incredibly capable our capacity is becoming in this area. It also means that we're able to integrate information from lots of different sources. There is an incredible amount of satellites being put up into space now that are all going to all be linked together, and we'll be able to share a lot of information for ourselves so we understand kind of what's happening. That's good, but it could be bad as well. So there are some downsides to this as well. So ubiquitous intelligence. The big thing is it actually is changing the way that conflict actually occurs today. If you're a big target, if you're slow moving, like a tank, for example, in Ukraine, you're going to be seen, and they're going to come after you. So it's changing the way that our military forces are operating. I'll tell you, there's a couple things that aren't changing. First of all, competition. War is a competition for production. And I was going to just share a couple factoids with you. Today the Chinese have 23.2 million square feet of shipbuilding space. The United States has several hundred thousand. That's it. This idea of having capacity and being able to produce what we need for war or for whatever else we need for our communities is a real challenge for us. And it's a factor of competition out here that we have to pay attention to. You've certainly heard our president talk about this. You've heard some of our new government talk about the need for investment in infrastructure here, for building our own manufacturing capacity back in our country. This is what they're talking about. It's about being able to produce what the country needs, like we were able to do once previously. Something else that's not changing is the importance of scale. In the Ukraine war, the Russians have recruited, that is they brought into their force somewhere between 600,000 and 750,000 soldiers over the 3-year course of this war. That's an incredible amount. I would just compare that with the size today of the United States Army is about 452,000 soldiers, the active portion of the U.S. Army. So the Russians have literally recruited an active U.S. Army and a half and brought them into service. That's what I mean by scale here. Our ability to do things to a large degree, to really be able to mass. The USS Gerald Ford, the most current, most modern U.S. Navy carrier we have, took 12 years to produce. The Chinese took 9 years to produce their first one and 5 years to produce their second carrier. They understand this idea of scale and being able to move quickly and ramp up very, very quickly. At the beginning of the Ukraine war, the United States was producing between 6,000 and 8,000 artillery rounds a month. That was for our consumption and for the consumption of our allies. And of course, we provided a lot to the Ukrainians as under kind of our policy to support them. But our production capacity was really, really low in terms of this. Only 6,000 to 8,000 a month that supported everything we have. Over the last couple of years, we've ramped that up, and we're producing probably in the range of about 40,000 to 50,000 rounds a month now. That's good. That's really good, but it's taken time to get there. And it highlights this importance of production capacity and the ability to scale up. So when you hear people, when you hear our political leaders talking about that, these are the kinds of problems that they are talking about and they're trying to address. The last thing that I would just tell you about conflict that I think is important for American citizens to appreciate is that there is a need for continued modernization. Our potential adversaries, the Chinese, certainly the Russians, Iran, everybody out there is continuing to modernize their forces all the time. We've got to be able to do the same as we move forward. And we have some challenges in this particular area. You're looking at a dry dock right there. Dry docks are used for maintenance and construction of our capital ships of the U.S. Navy. We do not have a lot of these, frankly. We have like single-digit number of these just on the East Coast, for example, where a lot of our Navy vessels are located. So we've got to be able to modernize not just our equipment, but our infrastructure as well for us to remain competitive going forward. So when you hear our leadership talking about it, these are the kinds of things that they're talking about. So I just wanted to kind of set the base with you with those things right there to talk a little bit about how conflict is being impacted by the kind of the world that we're in. There are things that are changing, but there are also things that are staying the same as we move forward. I want to now just shift and I'll spend a few minutes here just talking about kind of some of the things that are ongoing right now where we find ourselves engaged. And again, I'm very happy to answer any questions about this or really anything that you have at the beginning. And I'll start in the Middle East. This is the area that I know the best, where I've spent most of my career serving in places like Afghanistan or Iraq or the Levant or Somalia or places like that. It's an incredibly interesting area, culturally rich, smart, young people across the region, but a region with lots of challenges. Over the last, I would say the last 6 to 8 months, there's been a fundamental change in the Middle East. A lot of this as a result of the operations that Israel has been conducting really over that period of time. Their operations against Hezbollah, the operations they have taken against Israel, and of course what they've been doing in Gaza have fundamentally changed the Middle East. And what I mean by that is that many of the threats that had previously existed in these areas, Hamas in Gaza, Hezbollah in Lebanon, Iran and its missile capability that threatens everybody in the region, have largely been addressed by Israeli military actions, and it's significantly changed the dynamic. So many of the assumptions that we have made about this area have changed a lot. For example, we have long assumed that the presence of Lebanese Hezbollah would deter Israel from taking action against Iran. That's completely changed today. Hezbollah is not a factor of particular military significance in Lebanon any longer. So the area has changed significantly just in the last 6 to 8 months as a result of the conflict that's been playing out over there, and it's quite profound. That said, there still are a lot of challenges right here. In the Middle East, you know, as our president has directed, we are conducting operations down in Yemen. These are focused at the Houthis. The Houthis are the kind of the nominal government in place in Yemen, and they have used their position to threaten shipping and movement of commerce through the Red Sea, and have threatened one of our critical interests in the region, and that is the free flow of commerce. And so our nation is undertaking actions right now to kind of compel them to change their behavior. As all of you are aware, Israel has gone back into Gaza just in the last month or so after the end of the first phase of the ceasefire. They are occupying ground in there right now. There is no clear, at least in my estimation, no clear plan that they have, a strategy that they have for how that is going to end. So it is likely that this will continue to play out as it is. Neither the Israeli government nor Hamas is at this point ready to kind of give in and capitulate on this. Certainly the Israelis wouldn't capitulate. They've largely done a lot of damage against the Hamas network here. But it has not improved the situation in Gaza. Over the last month, most of the humanitarian aid has stopped. Any that flows in goes in through Israeli means into the area. So there is a fundamental issue here of trying to resolve what becomes of Gaza, and most importantly, what becomes of the Palestinian people that are left there. The issue between Palestine and Israel, of course, is a long-standing underlying issue of the region, and really, for many of us who have served there, you come to appreciate that until that problem is addressed, the region itself will never reach full stability. There's also been another significant development over the last several months, and that has been the fall of the Assad regime in Syria. This has been pretty significant as well. And again, this is another assumption that we had made, that nothing would ever get Assad out of position. The Russians came to his aid, the Iranians came to his aid, yet it was this kind of former terrorist group that kind of got itself organized and overthrew the Syrian government, and now is trying to reestablish a more unified Syria. It's going to be a challenge for them. The group's DNA kind of takes it back into a terrorist organization, but yet their leader is talking more like a statesman in this. So it's a difficult situation for many countries like the United States and others who want the region to be stable, but yet they have to work with this person. So I think what you're seeing is our government being very pragmatic in terms of how we are doing this. That might not be the government we want, but it is the government we have, and we have to work with them. Let me talk a little bit about Eastern Europe. So this war has been going on for 3+ years now, between Ukraine and Russia. Today, they're really neither side, neither the Russians nor the Ukrainians are in a position where they can win. Neither of them can do anything decisive that would bring this to a logical conclusion. The fighting, as you kind of see, is in that darker portion of the Ukraine. That's the eastern portion of Ukraine, the Donbass area, down to Crimea. This is largely trench warfare. Every day is taking place right here. There is very little change in terms of terrain going back and forth between one side or another. But that kind of static warfare that's taking place is augmented by missiles and drones that are being launched on both sides that have been pretty devastating. The casualties are extraordinarily high. I think President Trump mentioned the other day, he wanted to say it was 2,000 a week on the Russian side. So these are extraordinary loss of life that is taking place in this conflict, which I think is what has been motivating our country to try to find a solution for this. So this is very much attritional warfare with these aspects of missiles and UAVs going back and forth. The United States had been really leading the effort to support the Ukrainians. We have stepped back from that in the last couple of months, and most of that responsibility has been picked up by the French and the British. We still have forces in place that are supporting some aspects of this fight. And of course, I think you're all aware that our Secretary of State and some others are very much involved in trying to resolve this situation that is taking place in Eastern Europe. Let me just finish up, and I'll talk about the Indo-Pacific. And really, when I talk about the Indo-Pacific, I'm talking about our competition with China. And I think it's important to appreciate we're not at war with China. That's not where we are right now. Where we are, though, is we are in great competition with China. We are in competition with China for influence, not only in the Indo-Pacific, but really globally and in many, many different locations. And it's important to appreciate that what China has been doing over the last several years has really been focused on exerting their dominance in this part of the world. And a part of the world where the United States has historically been a leader, where we have historically maintained a balance of power that has been generally favorable to us and into the Western world. And China is in the process of kind of setting the conditions now for a cross-strait invasion of Taiwan. That is what the focus of their military efforts have been for a number of years now. They are developing capacity. They are exercising. They're exerting their influence in both direct and indirect ways to try to exert their control over this particular area. So they are trying to set the conditions so that the United States or other Western powers would have difficulty coming in and reinforcing Taiwan in the event of an incursion into Taiwan. There is a military competition that is taking place. We still have very many good relationships down there. About a year or so ago, I was in the Philippines and had an opportunity to see the work we're doing with them. It's very good. We have a number of extraordinarily good partners out there. The Philippines, the Australians, the Koreans, the Japanese, the Vietnamese have really stood up and are really great partners for us out there. So we have these very good relationships in place, but we are very much involved in a competition with them. It's not limited to the Indo-Pacific. We see it in a variety of areas. I did a quick interview this afternoon, and a reporter wanted to talk to me about Chinese jets that are now in Egypt working with the Egyptians, again, exerting their own influence there. I think the important thing to appreciate here is that China has a plan, and they are executing it. Their growth, the growth of their military is the fastest growing military since the U.S. military of World War II. That's how significant their growth and development is. I'm kind of talking about my favorite subject here, and that is the force. About the men and women we have in uniform and what they're doing. Over the last couple of years, many of you have heard some concerns about recruiting, and there certainly have been some challenges with recruiting, but as somebody who's served almost 40 years in uniform, I know there's veterans in here, recruiting is a sine wave. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's bad. My very first platoon that I took over in early 1981, was manned at about 60%. Because we had manning challenges, and then it got better, and then it got worse, and that's kind of the way that it goes. So we have a cyclic cycle that we go through with our recruiting. If the economy is really good, guess what? Less kids are going into the military. That's a fact of life here. So it's important to appreciate that. I'm not trying to throw out any excuses here with that, but I just wanted to highlight that to you. The good news is that in 2024, our recruiting has kind of come back up to where it needs to be. And all of our service, I think with the exception of the United States Navy, met their recruiting goals. The Navy was just 4,000 or 5,000 sailors behind. So they've got some work to do in terms of that, but we have recovered in terms of that. And we are continuing to bring in really high quality men and women from across the country that are representing us really well. I think one of the important things that American citizens should appreciate about this is the challenge that we have with recruiting young men and women into the military. When you look at the principal group that we recruit from, which is 17 to 24-year-olds, that's the group that we really try to recruit from to bring in as new soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, Guardians, Space Guardians. Of that group in the United States, only about 12 to 13% of them have a propensity to serve and can meet the qualifications, the standards for coming into the military. So when you look at that, that's pretty significant. That means almost 85, some cases 90% of our youth out there have no interest in it. They are not propense towards it. They don't know anything about it. It's not an option for them. Or they can't meet a standard. And that could be a legal standard, it could be a medical standard, it could be a physical standard, it could be an educational standard. There are a variety of things out there that we require our service members to meet right there. But they can't meet that. So in that pool of what's left over is also the same group that Apple, Google, Amazon, everybody else is recruiting from as well. So it's an incredibly competitive space out there to recruit people. And I think one of the things that we probably need to do as a country, certainly I felt this way, kind of motivated me to go into the military, was we have to talk to our young men and women about what the opportunities are to serve and how they can do that. And the best voices are these right here in our community to talk to them. I know a number of you are veterans. You've served, you've had an experience in the military. Sharing that with young people, I think, is incredibly important. I've found that the young kids that I meet that are serving, these are great young Americans. They're coming in for the right reasons. They're not coming for money. They're coming because they feel an obligation. They're coming because they want the experience. They're coming because they want to be in leadership positions. They're coming because they want to do something that is helpful to the country. But in many cases, we need more motivation. We need more help in our communities. And I'm hoping that you all can help with some of that challenge as we move forward. Okay, I think I've talked enough here, so maybe I'll stop, and I'm happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Questions from the group?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for addressing some of the questions we had. My question is about the threats from China when it comes to AI and also the role of the private sector like NVIDIA when they sell some of those powerful chips to China. What's the strategic role of the army, of the forces, in kind of controlling some of these transfer of technology to quote-unquote adversary when it comes to long term?
Yeah, thanks. So the military, the U.S. military doesn't have a role in controlling that. We don't have any role in trying to control what private or public business does with China or any other places. That is a role that's normally played by the U.S. government. And over the last, I would say the last decade and a half, there's been a concerted effort by the U.S. government to explain to American businesses the cost of doing business in China. And of course, many companies have begun to appreciate what the cost is. China takes all your IP, they do all kinds of stuff, so you may get the benefit of cheap manufacturing, but you're losing a lot with that. And we have actually seen a migration of companies moving their manufacturing capacities or their technology development back to the United States or back to friendly countries. Think of a country like Motorola, for example. A company like Motorola is a good example. This is a company everyone knows Motorola and what they do in terms of communications and other systems that they devise. They largely deconstructed themselves out of China at a significant cost to their bottom line and reestablished themselves back in the United States and in countries that are friendly to us and have kind of regained control over their stuff. So it's a challenge, there's no doubt about it. I think when it comes to AI and chips, I think most of the reporting that I see and that I'm aware of keeps the United States. We are still the #1 in terms of the development and production and certainly the design of the high-end chips that are used for the most sophisticated stuff around the world. China has not broken into that yet. I think you're aware of the efforts that are taken to create fabrication factories back here in the United States for chips and reduce some of our dependency on Taiwan, where a majority of them are produced. We've got some vulnerabilities there. So there's certainly a lot of work to do with this, but there's some has already been done in terms of. Thank you for the question. Yes, sir.
I have to read it a little bit because thinking about the distributed power that you talked about early in the presentation, with drones, missiles, autonomous systems, why would we want to build large vessels that are a center for power? They become the target. You even mentioned it as tanks are always going to be a target as soon as they're on the battlefield. So why would we try to build those things, and why would we not try to just build systems that can counteract that kind of projected power?
It's a great question. It's a really great question. And I think the reason is because we have a variety of interests that we are trying to address. So when you think about things like carriers that take a long time to build and we only have 10 or 11 of them, if that provides the capability that that is provided by platforms like that are singularly unique. So when something happens in Gaza and the Israelis are attacked and we respond, we are able to move a carrier that takes a whole bunch of sovereign capability. We don't have to put any of it on land, and we control it all. So there are some benefits to creating those types of things. I think. Yeah, but they are a big target. That's right. But I would also add that while the attack vectors are improving, so are some of our defense vectors as well. We are improving our capabilities to protect ourselves. There's a lot that comes along with a carrier. The carrier strike group that is, everybody else in the carrier strike group is designed to protect the carrier. And so, those ships, those aircraft, those other units that go along with that are equally well developed and are doing it. Your point is extraordinarily well made. I think there will always be some need for legacy systems that we will have to rely on, but certainly there should be more focus put on things that are cheaper, more autonomous, can be mass produced, can be distributed much more broadly, and this I think has been the focus of some programs in the Department of Defense, but it's not at a level that it needs to be right now. Thank you. Yes, sir.
When our next military conflict arrives, how harmful will the $37 trillion debt be to our ability to win?
I'm not sure I can give you a straight answer to that. But what I think our fiscal management is a problem right now. How we are managing and paying for the things that we are doing. This is my personal opinion. Since I want to say, I'm thinking back now, since about 2012 or 2013, the U.S. Congress has approved, and the President and our presidents have signed about 113 or 115 continuing resolutions. So what a continuing resolution, you all seen what this is. This is where the government can't get to a funding bill, so what we do is we extend the budget that we had last year to the future until we can get to a next agreement. The challenge with this is that we have now about, on the average, about 50 to 60% of every year has been under a continuing resolution. And when you're under a continuing resolution, you can't start new programs, you can't make some investments that you need to make, and we lose incredible buying power in the Department of Defense. So my concern is less about the overall, I'm an American citizen and pays taxes as well. I'm astounded by our level of debt. It's a problem. But the bigger problem with the Department of Defense is that our inability to pass on-time resolutions, funding resolutions, and provide some predictability for the military is costing us buying power. We are not able to do the things that the gentleman over here suggested because those are new programs that require more starts, and we can't get to that. So that to me is the bigger concern and the bigger issue from directly to the department. Certainly the huge amount of debt, a lot of which is owned by China, is a problem. It's a problem for us. So not just for the military, but for the nation as a whole. Yes, sir.
Could you comment about the Space Force? What are
Yes.
Yeah, so the Space Force is now several thousand Space Guardians. That's what we call members of the Space Force. It's the newest military force. It is in the current budget and programming effort. It is growing very, very quickly. The Space Force has no problem meeting its recruitment goals. People love the Space Force. They love the idea of it. When it opened up, there was overwhelming re-enlistments or enlistments for that, so it's drawn a lot of people. It's excited a lot of people about this. And the Space Force is doing some really unique things. They're responsible not only for conduct of our operations in space, which include the network of satellites that are out there that support our communications and our intelligence networks, but also for the defense of space. And of course, we're not the only one in space anymore. China is there in a big way, Russia has always been there, Iran has got satellites up, many countries now are putting satellites up, so space has become a very busy area up there, and the Space Force has responsibility for defending those potential threats from us. I had an opportunity to be with the Space Force Chief of Staff here just a month or so ago, and we were talking about this, and he was talking to me about anti-satellite weapons that are being put into space that are really not designed to shoot down towards Earth. They are designed to shoot at other objects in space and to take out networks. This is a big capability for us, but it's also a big vulnerability for us as well. So space is a new area, and there's certainly tons of investment and focus that are being put into it right now.
Question up here.
Yeah, please.
Would you care to comment on cybersecurity and the attacks that may take place that are cyber in nature?
Yeah, I think this is another area where we could be vulnerable. My assessment is, I think the United States, certainly the Department of Defense through the U.S. Cyber Command, I think has some exquisite capabilities, not just for defending us, but for actually being more offensive against our adversaries that are using this. And I think we have really matured in this area, and we are no doubt, I think, the leader in this area. Will be for a while, but there are a lot of competitors in this area, China, Iran, Russia, among them. I think I'm less concerned about, I am concerned about Department of Defense, national security networks out there and being subjected to cyber attacks, but I'm actually more concerned about the impact on the private sector, the civil sector in terms of, I think we've all seen what's happened with some of our transportation nodes or with oil and gas lines and things like that that are extraordinarily vulnerable to this. So we've got to continue to do more work in that area to harden ourselves and make sure that we are capable of protecting ourselves. But that's another vector. That's another asymmetric vector that people are trying to use to get after us. Yes?
A number of our members here are also in the Optimist Club. So my question is, on the big scale of things, where are you on the optimism, pessimism scale?
I'm always very optimistic about our country. And the reason I am is because I've had the opportunity to see the young men and women that are coming in uniform. I mean, I'm trying to be very straight with you tonight, and I'm not going to come in and blow fairy dust towards you here about things where there are real challenges that we're dealing with out here. But I'm here to tell you, we have got great men and women in our country, in our communities across the nation. I have seen them, I have worked with them, I've seen what they're able to do, and I'm very, very optimistic about that, and about what they will do when asked to step up. I mean, after 9/11, I was a colonel when 9/11 broke out, and so I had the opportunity to see people come in after that. People came in for the right reasons. They came in because, hey, my family serves, I'm here to do this, it's not a career for me, but it's my time to come in and do this right now. There's still very much that feeling out there with our citizens, and there's a lot of parents that I think are doing really great jobs raising super kids out there that are coming and do things. That's what gives me a lot of optimism. I think fundamentally, I think we're a good country. We've got a lot of friends out there, despite kind of what's going on right now. There's still a lot of people that our list of friends is still much longer than China's, much longer than Russia's, much longer than Iran's. But we've got to keep focused on that. We've got to work with our friends out there and our partners and keep them on our side as we move forward. Those things give me some optimism about the future.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Can you comment a little bit more on Hezbollah? Who are they? How large are they? Where are they located?
Yeah. So the organization that I talked about, Hezbollah, Lebanese Hezbollah, so they're located in Lebanon. And they are an organization that has been around for about 40 years. And they are a proxy force of Iran. Iran raised them. Iran's strategy across the region has not been for Iranians to fight people across the region. It's been to create these proxy organizations like Hamas, like Hezbollah, like the Houthis, who do their fighting for Iran. That's their approach. That's how they are exporting their revolutionary ideology. In Lebanon, in particular, they have created the Lebanese Hezbollah, and they started out as a fighting force, and then about 15 or 20 years ago, they became a political force, and they are a part of the Lebanese government. So if you went to the Lebanese parliament, you would see members of Hezbollah that are members of the government, but they are beholden to Iran. They're not beholden to Lebanon, to the people of Lebanon, and you can kind of see how difficult a situation that has been. They have largely operated in the southern half of Lebanon, and they are a very capable, well-trained force. They fought ISIS, they've gone other places and done things, they're combat experienced, and they're the ones who have been holding Israel at risk with rockets and missiles launched from Lebanon into the cities in Israel. And Israel's actions against them last fall that largely neutralized them, killed a lot of their leaders, and neutralized a lot of their forces is one of the most significant things that's happened here recently. And given Lebanon an opportunity to get out from under the scourge of Hezbollah and actually be more representative of their own people.
So Iran is supporting them.
Iran is supporting. Iran's behind everything in the Middle East. Yes, sir.
Is there one thing that concerns you the most?
General Mattis, our former Secretary of Defense, was asked this question, and when he said, "I don't know, I sleep good at night. I'm the guy that makes everybody else worry about what's happening." I wish I could say something like that, but I think there is. What concerns me is the loss of time. It's taken us a long time to get serious about some of the threats that we're dealing with. I think we're clearly dialed in on China, but it's taken a while for us to get there, and we've lost a lot of opportunity in prevailing in terms of that. So I'm really concerned that the bureaucracy that is our government, our slowness in operating, our slowness in doing things, the lack of consensus in our own government is really preventing us from addressing the things we really need to address, whether it's national security issues or things right here in our country. That's what I'm concerned about today as a citizen. I'd like to see a lot more civility. I'd like to see a lot more teamwork. I'd like to see a lot more people coming together to solve solutions and a lot less attacking of the other side. I'm really concerned when we are in a situation where you are with us or you're the enemy. That's just not how I grew up. That's not how I view things. I mean, we all grew up here, many of us in the state of Minnesota, the land of Humphrey, where people came together around things. I'm really concerned about that.
How do you see that being resolved?
I don't know.
Either surrender or you be defeated, isn't it?
Well, I think what it's going to take is it's going to take a generational change. It's going to take young people coming into Congress. It's going to take others coming into government and setting aside some of what I would view as differences that that could be resolved on things here, and we have to stop villainizing each different sides of our country. It's toxic, and it's not good for the nation, I don't think. So I don't know. I mean, it has to start with our leadership. We have got to have a whole different dynamic of what's going forward. I don't see anything that's changing that right now, despite my greatest hopes in terms of that. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for your amazing service. It's an honor to be able to trust you. What do you view as one of your biggest successes in your career?
I think the biggest success that I would point to is, and I see it a lot, is that it has been the opportunity to develop and create leaders that have followed behind me. still maintain, I was mentioning at the table, I still maintain contact with a lot of men and women that are in the military, many who I had the opportunity to serve with, and they served under me, and they were young and energetic at the time, and now they have risen up to high positions and are doing great things. There's for me a lot of personal satisfaction in that, to see people, and it's got to be the same way in the private sector or any place else where people that you have brought up along the way are now doing it. They're in charge and they're doing a great job of it and representing the country so well. So that's the thing I'm most proud of. Thank you. Lauren?
With the issues with recruiting, do you ever foresee the draft coming back into play?
I don't know. I think there's certainly some positive aspects of that. The idea of people serving and having to serve. I mean, if you go, for those of you that ever travel to Israel, they have compulsory military service there. I'm here to tell you, whether you agree with it or not, Israelis understand what's at risk for their country. All Israelis understand what is at risk for their country. And they get that because they all have mandatory service. So I think there's some benefits to it, considering it. I am much more a proponent of kind of national service. Do something, serve in the military, serve in law enforcement, serve in fire services, be an emergency worker. I'd happily pay for your college if you wanted to do something like that. So I like that idea. To your question, I don't see any momentum that would make that a reality anytime soon, much to my chagrin. But
Thank you. Okay, one more question up here.
I just have a quick question. With China so much in fast-paced way about the United States, how long will it take us at our slow pace or, democracy kind of in this stagnant mode? How long would it take us to catch up, do you think?
Well, I mean, using in the current system, we might not. And I think that's what's so important, I think, about some of the initiatives the administration is undertaking here, whether it is breaking down bureaucratic boundaries, revising our acquisition and procurement processes for the Department of Defense. Things like that can make a big difference. I just would tell you, we went from a non-mobilized country in 1939-40 to the global leader in 1945, and we were actually there a little bit before that. So we know how to do it. We've done it before. We've done it in single-digit number of years. I think with the right leadership, with the right plan, with the right investments, and with the removal of kind of the bureaucratic obstacles, we could move much more quickly and do it in years that can be measured in single digits as opposed to double digits, or maybe never on the current pace that we're at. So it's not a very optimistic way to end this, is it? Hey, I just want to thank you.
What else were you going to say?
I just want to say, really, I thank you very much for the opportunity to come out and talk with you this evening. I've had an opportunity to talk around the Twin Cities here over the last year and a half to a lot of groups like this. I'm well aware of what Rotarians do. Thank you very much for that. I really appreciate the opportunity to come and do it. And it's an honor to serve. Somebody thanked me for my service. I would just tell you that you are worth it. The country is worth it. The communities are worth it. St. Paul, Roseville is worth all the service that is out there. So thank you very much for the opportunity to talk with you this evening.